start off in the Bay? I don't know. A lot of
It's definitely
expectations.
going to be one of the two, I can tell you that.
All
We'll
right.
find out in about 33 minutes.
Very good. How many of you guys have heard us speak at one time or another?
That's why they did not release
It's
the
usually
lineup.
a brave dozen or two that come back. Okay, awesome. Very cool. Well, for the rest of you, my name's Fred. This is my business partner, Kevin. We have managed to work with each other in the real estate industry now for over 15 years. I don't know how we did that. Anyway,
Happy anniversary, by the way, buddy.
that was last month, and you still haven't got me anything.
I'm sorry.
We're just business partners. Just that's all. Just business partners. But I still expected something.
I was in the hospital, dude.
I was doing extra work. I remembered. Okay. All right. So.
To be clear, that means he was working 10 hours a week,
So a lot of this week is going to be about revenue share, right? Growing our organizations, but they said, hey, Kevin, Fred, will you talk a little bit about production? Will you talk about how to grow a real estate team? Will you talk about some of the habits and things that need to go on in your business today in this downturn, as Gene mentioned? So Kevin, why don't you, we started our business in a downturn. Just quickly for people that don't know anything about us, can we share a little of that?
Yeah, I was thinking as Brent was talking a moment ago and moving to Cabo in 2009, we actually met in 2010. He was running a brokerage, and Fred and I at the time were teaching short sales. So our business was completely centered around short sales. I think my third transaction ever was a short sale, and pretty much the next 1,000 or so were short sales. And that's where we first came across Brent, right? We learned how to build a business, but our listings were short sales, because in those days you had REO listings, short sale listings, or they didn't sell, right? There was nothing else to sell.
Thankfully today we don't have to talk about short sales, but just want to give you guys a little background. So, throughout the last 15 years, we've had some highs and lows, right? Anybody that's been in this business as long as ourselves or anyone else, you guys know there's ups and downs in this business, right? So I'm not just going to tell you about our highlights. We've messed up a lot of things along the way, but we've had as many as just the two of us working in our sales team. We've had as many as 110 people in our real estate sales team. We've sold as few as 60 homes. We've sold as many as almost 600 units in a year. So we've seen some of the ups and downs. And today we're going to talk a little bit about just some of the habits that you see in real estate teams and in agents that are performing at the highest of high levels. So Kevin, share with us a little bit about this present. Hold on. How did you get the clicker? Thank you. We need to fix that right now.
Trust me, I know where I shine, and holding the clicker ain't it.
So right before we got up here, I feel like I should tell you guys this. Kevin was kind enough, as we were sitting on the side over there, he had a bottle of water in his hand with the lid off, and he decided to spill it on me. So for the last 10 minutes, I've been trying to dry my shorts off. So just a little off my game here with the clicker, but we'll be okay. All right. Thanks for trusting us, Brent. Well, this will get better, I promise. It will. This will get a lot better. Okay, so Kevin, tell us a little bit about this research project, would you?
Yeah, so I'm going to give a little context first. So Fred and I, listen, I know we're going to talk about a lot of rev share this week, and it is near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, baby.
And we also talk about real estate from time to time and selling more houses. So Fred and I will probably 4 times a year host a full-day mastermind with top agents from all around the country, people that are hand-selected, selling a lot of homes, everything from the solo producer doing 25 million on their own to the people literally selling 1,000 homes a year. We just get together and we talk about what's going on in the market, what's going on in our business, and we share best practices. There's no brokerage talk at all. So we get people from all over and we just bring them together. And at one of these events, a good friend of ours, some of you may know him if you're from Phoenix, or even if not, Brian Gubernick came in and did a quick presentation for us at our last event. And Brian, for those of you who don't know, had some downtime towards the end of last year. And he started asking himself a series of questions, and he came up with a series of criteria. He said, who are the top team? Not like who gets on stage, because let's face it, I'm saying this from stage. Sometimes the people on stage, they're not the businesses you want to model after. You know what I'm saying? Like, have you heard that? Like, you get that. So Brian said, let's go deeper. So he came up with a list of criteria. He said, I want to know who's been in the business and had growth year over year for at least 5 years, had some longevity in their team, had a minimum net profit threshold as well as a minimum gross income or GCI threshold as well, and a few other requirements. And he started looking for teams he could interview. He came up with 29 of them. I'm sure there's more, but he came up with 29. So you see right here, he interviewed 29 of the most successful team owners in the nation. He defined success, highly profitable over multiple years of business, at least 5 years, consistent year-over-year growth. Guys, it's been easy to grow. If you got licensed in like 2018 and your business wasn't growing through last year, I don't know what you're doing, right? The last couple years has been easy to grow. But when you have 5+ years of consistent growth, like that's something. That's when you're onto a great business. And so he started asking a bunch of questions and he came up with 8 commonalities. And so we're gonna share those with you guys today if you don't mind. Cool.
Here's a little secret. Brian did this study specifically around real estate production teams, right? People that are helping buyers and sellers. What he didn't realize is there's a lot of crossover in our revenue share organizations and communities. So you can look at this study through 2 different lenses as we go through it today, okay? So here's the questions that were asked, right, Kevin? Question number 1, what is it about your team that has led you to your success over the years? Question 2, what was the turning point in your business? When did it take off? What was the action or behavior that sparked that momentum or change? Number 3, what is it that other teams do not do that they should start doing today? And number 4, what about you as a team owner and leader? Tell me about your day. What do you feel is your superpower and makes you different from your competitors? So he didn't go into this whole study thinking, I'm gonna base it on these top 8 things and I'm gonna ask him questions around this. He asked these 4 basic questions and out of it came 8 very, very interesting takeaways. So you guys ready to jump into that?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it, Kevin. Number 1. All right, here we go.
All right, predictable environment. And again, I want to just re-emphasize what Fred just said. You could just put this rev share business hat on for a second, or you could talk about your sales team, doesn't matter. All teams interviewed had created a very predictable environment. There were standard and expectations for every role in the organization, whether that was 2 people or 20, didn't matter. There was a cadence to their day, right? There's a team calendar, meetings, events like we're at today. Resources and training. This was something that showed up in literally all 29 responses.
What was interesting about the responses as we talked more to Brian and we got deeper into this study is that not every team had the same standards or expectations. Not every team had the same cadence to their day. Not every team did their training the same way. Not every team had the same routine, but they all had a routine. They all had some level of standards or expectations. They all had some cadence that they bought into. And so, success leaves clues, right? We know that. And it doesn't look the same. And that's what's really unique and crazy. Over the next 3 days, you're gonna hear from some people, and some people in the room are gonna be like, wow, that's awesome. I wanna emulate them. And some people are gonna be like, I would never wanna do it that way. And that's okay. Because we all create success our own way, but if you dig deeper and you peel back the onion a little bit more, you find that a lot of us, although the outside results and the way we go about doing our business might show up a little different, there's still a lot of predictable things behind the scenes that are consistent amongst top producers.
Something I want to add in before we move forward is, if on any of these actions you go, I don't relate to that. Like I don't do that, or that doesn't show up in my business. Just take note of it. And ask yourself later when you've got some quiet time, like, hey, where could I get better at this? Because this is something rev share, sales team, heck, any other business, doesn't matter. Like if you're doing these are things, they don't guarantee success, but they're sure gonna give you a better shot at it.
Yeah, as I went through this the first time, Kevin, one of the things that I found myself doing is I just said, okay, does our team have a predictable environment? It does, but then I said, like, how could I make that predictable environment better? Right, so maybe as you're going through these 8 today with us, just write down what you think you're doing really well in these areas, and then write down an area where, hey, I could probably turn that up a little bit better. I know for us, I'll give a personal example. I'm gonna go to the rev share organization for a while. We realized that we didn't have really good cadence for our revenue share community. Our real estate team had these different cadences and scripts on this day, and we were doing call nights and things like that. But then when we looked in our revenue share community, we said, well, there's some events every quarter, but we don't really have a cadence throughout the week. So perhaps in your revenue share group, in your community, maybe it's time to figure out a cadence for that week, right? What is it that people are showing up to? Where are they plugging into? We gotta create a predictable environment for people. All right, action number 2, keep score.
Successful teams keep score, guys. They score lead activities, so lead gen, right? Appointments, agreements, as well as the lag results, closings, commissions, FLQAs, total group size, rev share payouts. Most people can define what winning or losing the day looks like. here's the deal. When someone can define what winning today looks like, that's how I know someone's tuned in. Because let's face it, of all the work we do, if you've got, let's say, 250 working days a year, and there's a lot of realtors in this room, so a lot of you work more than 250 days in a year, it can be hard to know if you won that day or not. And if you don't know what winning looks like, this business can get hard. That's why we've got such a fail rate in this industry. So understanding what winning today looks like, because not every day will there be a new FLQA. Not every day will there be a new closing or a new listing. It's the activities that we've got to do every day. And all teams, they've got some sort of visual scoreboard. Man, when I think about our rev share business, we got tuned in on this on our sales business a long time ago. But it was even not until last summer, 4 years in for you and I, where our sponsor, Curtis Johnson, was really on our butts about that one, scoreboard, right?
I mean, Curtis has a spreadsheet with so many tabs on it, you need like a 50-inch monitor just to view them all for his rev share. It's really impressive if you guys have never seen it. But no, I want to thank Curtis for a quick minute because it was last July. It hasn't even been a year since you and I decided, we need to keep some score. For a rev share moment, I'll give you guys some ideas that really helped us. One of the things that Kevin and I track in our rev share business is we actually track the people that are helping us grow. Like who are the leaders in our organization that also have an organization, right? Many of you guys have heard Brent talk about this before. Our little tab on our spreadsheet is called the We Do It tab. We do it. And we track our generals. Like who are the people in our organization that have, our number is 125 or more in their rev share organization, and who's under them? Like who do we need to be sewing into, and how's their growth looking month over month? My most painful thing that we track in our rev share organization,
don't say it, don't say it.
Still painful today because if you saw our numbers up there, you'll know, but what's the cost of not having my 7th level unlocked? What's the cost of not having your 6th level unlocked? Like when you start tracking your business and you start paying attention to your revenue share business like you would your real estate sales team, there's some painful truths in there.
The other thing I want to point out, we call it our We Do It tab. Because there's a couple ways to run a business, and it starts with I do it, we do it, and you can move to they do it if you want. But I'm a firm believer in we do it. I think that's the power of EXP is we do it together, one big fire, right? And so that's exactly the same is true for your sales business. There is nothing wrong with being an I do it agent. Just understand you can do it as we do it or they do it as well if you want. But you got to be really clear on these things.
All right, action number 3. Team leaders actively plan and manage their time. So successful team owners plan their days and weeks, right? They leverage a calendar to block their time. What was interesting in the study, though, that Brian found and he shared with Kevin and I is that they mostly honor their time blocks. Mostly. Let's be honest, we hear a lot of people from stages or on podcasts or different interviews, and we think they have it all put together. Guess what, guys? None of us have it all put together. We don't. We're just moving forward, right? Like, we're just literally trying to get better every single day. So it's okay to have a calendar and then find yourself not honoring all your time blocks. That means you're human. That means you're like the rest of us, right? Now, we always can be improving though, right? While there is some random unplanned work that occurs, for the most part, these team owners are following some sort of regular schedule, right? And I thought what was interesting, Kevin, is that schedule is openly shared with other people. Tells you 2 things. Number 1, there's an accountability there. But number 2, it means that most team leaders also have some leverage. They have somebody in their life that's taking some stuff off their plate so they can go do more of what makes them great.
Yeah, one of the powers of partnership, and that's what this company is a partnership, is the fact that at any point, Fred can put something on my calendar. Kim Frazier can put something on my calendar. Adam Coates can put something on my calendar. My partners can do that. Not only can they see what I'm doing, so I'm accountable if they want to go in and look, see if I'm available or not, but they can then go and put something on there. And to me, that's a big deal. So if we just keep it all to ourselves, then we're like the person we're the one person with a key, and that's a great way to keep a business small.
All right, action number 4. Team leaders leverage personal work time. Tell us more about that one.
Yeah, all successful team owners have a weekly and in some cases daily chunk of block time to work on whatever their personal projects are, right? So whatever I like to think, I call that my job. Like there's something I do that's my job for my real estate team. There's something I do that's my job for my revenue share organization, right? So those projects can look like strategic planning, reviewing data, writing course material. We're gonna get to that one at another point soon. One-on-one meetings, not just holding them, but planning for them. This is something Fred and I put in place in summer of 2019, blocking out thinking time. Like there's literally blocks in our calendar every single week where you can't get on my schedule because I am scheduled to do nothing other than to think about the problems and opportunities in my businesses, and that's it.
Yeah, for those of you guys that have ever read, there's a book called The Road Less Stupid. Kevin often likes to call it The Road Less Fred. I don't think that joke's very funny.
You're a jerk for taking that from me.
I took it from you, that way you couldn't say it, that's right. There's a great author out there, his name's Keith Penningham, that wrote that book. He's the one that coined the term thinking time. And it's just that, right, Kevin? You and I literally sit back, we turn the computers off, we turn the phones off, we have a little agenda, and you and I just think about our business. Now, Keith talks about it more from the solo business owner perspective. He gives some questions in that book that you can ask yourself. But this has turned in some of the most effective and powerful time that we have in our business, because a lot of times as top producers, especially business owners, folks that are running teams, we're overscheduled. Anybody ever feel that way? We're overscheduled, we're overcommitted. We don't give ourselves the space to actually sit back and process what's going on and have some creative, downtime. I know what's worked really well for you and I as well over the years is literally creating thinking time where we leave the state, or we drive away from our office and go to a restaurant for 3 or 4 hours, or a hotel, just somewhere where we can have that space to sit back and think.
Yeah, I mean the reality is you've got to get out of it, you've got to think, and if you don't have the time to stop and think about something outside of your normal environment, you're never going to think different than the way you're currently handling the problems in your business. And so that one, I can't emphasize that enough. In fact, I would challenge you. You're going to hear a lot of great speakers and 2 really mediocre speakers over the next 3 days. Fred and one other. Just kidding. I would challenge you to, whatever your biggest takeaways are, whatever resonates with you the most, put some time in your calendar later today for this weekend or next week and think about it. Literally think about it. Because if you just walk away with some notes, that's great, you're going to retain some of it, especially if you're writing it down. If you threw some stat at us in Scottsdale, I forget what it was, but it was a high number of retention when you're actually writing notes down, right? So cool, you're going to retain some of it. I promise you that retention amount will go up significantly if you'll just plan 2 hours in your schedule sometime in the next 5 days to think about the things that hit you most this week.
I'm going to think about finding a new business partner. Okay, action number 5. Team leaders and key people understand their team's financials. You gave me a minute there to think about that one, so way too much time, by the way. All successful team owners not only review monthly financials, but they actually understand what they're reviewing. I think that's an interesting one. As you and I over the years, I remember way back in the day, our very first coach, this was 2009 or 2010.
He's still our coach.
I know he is. He said to us, he goes, "How do you guys know if you had a really good month?" And I think it was me. I was like, I don't know. I guess there's still money left in the bank account at the end of the month.
The laughing tells me you know what he's talking about.
I mean, that was how we judged it. He said, you guys need a financial statement. You need a profit and loss. You need to review it frequently. You need to categorize your expenses, right? You need to know what's going on in your business. So, what's interesting in this study is that all of the team owners who interviewed had a slightly different process, but they essentially arrived at the same awareness level around their business.
They had a process, and I was talking to my buddy Dustin Runyon about this recently. You guys have heard of the term FOMO? Does everybody know what FOMO is? There's something else called FOFO. You heard of that? Fear of finding out. Great business leaders have no fear of number 5. Whether we're talking rev share, real estate business, I don't care if you run a title company or a car wash. Great business leaders have no fear of number 5.
Last piece there is all have more than their own eyes on their financials. We use a bookkeeper in the real estate space called Streamline Business Solutions. I just mentioned them because they're good people. We literally pay the owner of that company, SBS, to review our financials with us once a month. We sit on a Zoom with him and we make him give us his insights. Actually, I take that back. It's now once a quarter. You and I look at it monthly, but he does that with us once a quarter. And it's really powerful, right? To be able to have that conversation and have that outside influence also looking at your financials. All right, action 6, team leaders teach non-stop.
Content's varied, team leaders are always teaching. Guys, this is the very first recruiting tactic I learned by stumbling upon it. when you just take the stage, whether in your local area, whether in your brokerage, at the, what's that called, the board, wherever, like the reality is it forces you to get better. It forces you to get better. However, it also helps to attract other people into your world, both onto your sales team, to your revenue share organization, and all the other businesses you have going on. So we're not just talking about like sales skills, we're talking about leadership, investments, life skills, motivation, etc. This looks like group training. This looks like one-on-one from a development. In fact, I was at another conference last week and I got to spend a lot of time one-on-one with the person who's in charge of growing our sales team, director of sales. So there's some one-on-one stuff like that, but the point is, they never stop teaching.
Yeah, I love that one. From a recruiting aspect, we know, guys, if you sit up in front of a room and talk to people, if you put groups and communities together, that is improving upon your leadership, but it's also improving upon your influence, right? And I thought it was really great. We started the morning out talking about how it's a little tougher times right now than it was a year ago at this time, right? March of 2022 is a little different than March of 2023. And so now more than ever, the real estate industry is craving leaders to stand up in front of rooms, create conversations, and help people through some of the toughest times they've ever faced in their real estate career. I mean, how many of you in the room have been in real estate less than 7 years? Let's see those hands. Less than 7 years. It's a lot of people, guys. Right? You haven't seen a downturn or challenging times like some of us have seen. And so now more than ever, you want to look for opportunity to grow your real estate sales team, grow your revenue share group. I think it's right here in action number 6. Teach nonstop.
And I gotta say, this is kind of like, why don't you start creating video too? Because we don't want to look silly. I mean, I'm not saying the people in this group, just realtors as a whole, like we don't want to look silly. We might not have all the answers. I'm not saying to have all the answers. No one expects you to have all of the answers and to be a great presenter all the time. Like, there's only one Brent Gove, guys, right? We can't all be Brent Gove, right? Am I right or am I right? And you can get on a stage. I mean, I just started wearing shoes and I'm gonna be 45 in a few months. Like, you can get on stage in flip-flops and it's okay. You can lead a conversation. And people not only will buy into it, but they will follow you. They will sow back into you as well. And believe it or not, you will be the person that benefits the most if you decide to give the most. I firmly believe that. We've literally built our business teaching.
All right, Kevin, I'm gonna let you take this one. Action number 7, team leaders are executive athletes. Tell us more about that.
Well, we forgot to change Tom Brady to like somebody else since he retired like right after the slide was made. Loser. Just kidding, sort of. It was a fumble though. Seriously.
Bitter Raiders fan over here.
Absolutely, card-carrying member. Seriously, but think about Tom Brady. Think about his level of greatness and what that man did in his position and his job for so long. You can't do that unless you focus on things like health, energy, personal development, leadership, being super purposeful about who you spend your time with. Talk about another purpose for coming to an event like this. Like, big thinkers show up at events like this. Talk about being purposeful about your circle. That's right there. Every person in and outside of real estate who takes their business seriously, they've got some form of these. Like, this is not exclusive to real estate. This is exclusive to winners.
I love that last point too, Kevin. Purposeful with their circle, but they all had stories of when they were not, right? Are you guys seeing a theme in here? It's like, but they don't always, they don't always adhere to their time blocks. They're not always purposeful with their circle. Like, the leaders of the top 29 real estate teams in the country that were interviewed for this study, like, they were self-aware enough to admit that this is what I desire to be, but I don't always hit that perfectly. Do you guys follow that? Like, there's room for improvement. There's room for growth. So, I think, again, sometimes we sit in these rooms and we go, I wish I could be that. And they're so no, we don't all have it together, right? But they're purposeful with their circle. There's times in their life where they're not, but they quickly course correct and get back on the road. All right, action number 8, Kevin. I love this one. Teams have value propositions, and team leaders always have recruiting on their mind. I told you this was about production, but you can tell it's not about production, right? It's also about recruiting. Team leaders know what value they bring to agents, or at least they're confident in what they bring to the table. And they're always thinking about people to bring into their respective worlds.
What was funny is Brian shared about this one was, in his opinion, there was varying degrees of, I'll call it skill level, or actually value bringing, that value that was actually brought to the people in their world. However, where there was no variation was they all had the belief that they were bringing it, and it was literally a disservice to the agents to be on another team. So like they literally felt, hey, if Brent's looking for a team, if he doesn't join me, he's gonna do himself a disservice. Like that's how much they believed in their value proposition. I don't know about you, but when have you ever spoken to someone like that? Like maybe Gene or Brent even once, like they kind of come off like that, right? They know how valuable like our company is, how valuable this circle is. And if you don't approach your business with the same, I'm not saying it's gonna be perfect, Brett just got done saying that. It's not perfect, but you gotta believe it's the best thing available. And if you do, others will follow. They will get on board with your vision. The right ones will anyways.
Kevin, I want to take a minute while we're on action number 8 and we talk about recruiting on their mind. You were on a panel last week in front of a couple thousand people in California at another real estate event, and you did a session that was about recruiting. What were some of your takeaways from that session? You interviewed a CEO of one of the up-and-coming growing companies in real estate. What were some takeaways that you had about recruiting? I know you inserted a few of your own thoughts, but I want to hear some thoughts.
First of all, he had this thing like, if you ever like studied like health and wellness, it's not just like lifting weights, it's not just doing cardio, it's not just your diet, it's not just sleep, it's not just light exposure, it's everything, right? Same thing with recruiting. So he looked at recruiting as there's recruiting, there's production, and there's retention. We tend to play whack-a-mole. That's what we do. As agents and as business owners, we play whack-a-mole because we're so important. We're the key holders to everything that happens in our business, so we're the only ones that can do it. Therefore, we can't actually dedicate enough time to any one thing. So we play whack-a-mole with these 3 different things that really make up recruiting, which is recruiting, getting into production, and retention, right? And that was my biggest takeaway. My other big takeaway, because this guy has an impressive resume, both inside the real estate industry and out, on the tech side, as well as a mortgage startup that he started up and sold from scratch, was recruiting was always at the top.
Yeah.
It was always the most important thing. I don't care if we're talking about sales, like you need more listings, go recruit some sellers. You need more agents on your team, go recruit some agents. You need buyers, go recruit some agents. You want to build your rev share organization, go recruit some agents. Recruiting literally solves all the problems that you'll ever have in this business.
What I love is that recruiting is always on their mind, right? Which means that recruiting is a process, not an event. There's so many of us that treat recruiting like an event. We're like, oh, I just need a couple more agents this month, or I need a couple more FLQAs, or need to add a couple buyer's agents to my team, right? And so we're like, okay, what I gotta do to go do that? And we just run off and we go take some actions, and then we go back to whatever it is we were doing before. But the top of the top, the best of the best in our industry, they always have recruiting on their mind because they treat recruiting like a process, not an event. It's an ongoing process. They're always engaged with it. And that's one of the things that I love the most.
You ever get a lead and they were like, it's like a friend referred him. Sean calls me up, he's like, hey Kevin, I got my buddy John, he's gotta sell his house in Scottsdale, and he's moving to California, and like it's gonna have to sell right now. And so I go meet his friend, and then all of a sudden it turns in from not right now to like maybe next month or in 6 months or 12. You guys have had that listing before, right? Came in hot, like they all come in hot. How many of them, even the hottest of hot ones, still don't really sell in the next 30 days? Like there's a process. Recruiting's the same way. Who's ever attracted anybody to EXP? Raise your hands, okay, don't be ashamed. All right, who's ever been told no from someone that they weren't coming? And then who had that person come back 6 months or a year or 2 years or 5 years later? It's a process, not an event. But we show up to our real estate teams and we show up to our recruiting events our appointments to play the model explain, we show up and we treat it like an event instead of just treating it like a step in the process. See, whether we're talking about taking more listings, following up with our agent database, or our buyer and seller database, the goal is always just the next step. And if we do that enough times, the next step will be signing on the dotted line. Plain and simple.
Did y'all learn something? Yeah. Is it good? Cool.